Have you ever noticed that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you just can't get someone out of your head? You wake up and they're the first person that flashes through your mind. You go through your day, pretending you're focused, but their memory keeps slipping in, like a shadow that never really leaves. And when night comes, their face is still there, soft, haunting, and impossible to forget. It feels almost unfair, doesn't it? Because deep down, a part of you starts to wonder. If I can't stop thinking about her, does she feel it too? The truth is, when someone is constantly on your mind, it's rarely one-sided. Human connection doesn't just switch off when two people walk away. Something much deeper lingers, a psychological and emotional imprint that both people carry. Your mind, especially a man's mind that's tasted genuine connection, keeps searching for signals from that person. It's like an internal radar that won't stop scanning the air for her energy. Science calls it cognitive resonance, when two minds stay connected through emotion long after physical contact fades. But what most people don't realize is that these thoughts aren't just harmless daydreams. Every time you think about her, your mind sends out emotional energy. It's not magic, it's biology. Your brain lights up the same regions that would activate if she were sitting across from you right now. That means you're not only remembering her, you're feeling her. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. The moment your emotions reach out, hers react in subtle ways too. Maybe she suddenly thinks of you for no reason. Maybe a random song reminds her of you. Or maybe she just feels that quiet, unexplainable pull in her chest, a feeling she can't quite name. It's not coincidence, it's resonance. Emotions, especially strong ones, have a frequency. When you focus your thoughts on someone with enough emotion, you send that frequency out, and if that person ever felt the same for you, part of their subconscious still recognizes it. That's why sometimes when you're thinking of her, she reaches out, or you run into her by accident. It's not that you created the event, but your shared emotional patterns brought both of you back into the same mental space at the same time. Now, most men think that constantly thinking about a woman means weakness or obsession, but that's not always true. Often, it's your mind's way of trying to process something that never really got closure, a conversation that should have happened, a feeling that was never fully expressed, or a version of yourself that only existed when you were around her. The brain doesn't forget people who made us feel alive. It replays them until it understands the lesson hidden behind the emotion. Sometimes, she reminded you of a part of yourself you'd buried years ago. Your gentleness, your confidence, your ability to love without calculation. And every thought of her is really your subconscious calling you back to that version of yourself. That's why forgetting her feels impossible, because it's not only about her, it's about you and who you were when she was there. When you think about her, mirror neurons in your brain, the ones that let you feel empathy and connection, start firing. They recreate the emotions you once felt together, even if you're miles apart. That's why sometimes a simple memory feels so real it makes your heart race or your stomach twist. Your body doesn't know the difference between memory and reality when emotions are strong enough. And here's the secret most people overlook. When someone truly matters to you, your emotional energy doesn't fade into nothing. It lingers in the space between you. It's why she might randomly check your profile, dream about you, or get that strange sense that you're thinking of her. Because, in a way, you are. And somewhere, at a level she can't explain, she feels it. So, if you've been thinking about someone lately, if her face keeps showing up in your mind for no reason, don't assume it's only you. There's a very real chance she feels that same quiet tug somewhere in her heart. Because when two people once shared real connection, distance doesn't erase it. It only hides it for a while. And sometimes, the mind keeps reminding you of her not to torture you, but to show you that what you felt was real. And that maybe, just maybe, she still feels it too. You see, when you can't stop thinking about someone, it's because your mind and heart are caught in an emotional echo. Every time you replay her smile, her voice, or the way she once looked at you, your brain releases the same chemicals it did when those moments first happened. Dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin, the same hormones that create love, trust, and attachment, start flowing again, even though she's not there. It's like your body is reliving the connection all over again. And because your emotions are energy, that energy doesn't just stay trapped inside you. It reaches out, searching for the same source that created it, her. That's why sometimes, right when you're thinking of her intensely, she suddenly crosses your path again, messages you, or appears in your dreams. It feels like coincidence, but it's your shared emotional frequency aligning for a brief moment. There's something in psychology called emotional attunement. It's what happens when two people become so emotionally synced that they unconsciously sense each other's emotional states, even without words. You've probably experienced it. When she texted you at the exact moment you were about to text her. Or when you suddenly felt calm after days of thinking about her, almost as if she was thinking of you too. That's not fantasy. That's emotional resonance. The invisible conversation between two connected minds. Most men underestimate how sensitive women are to emotional energy. When you think about her with longing, with love, or even regret, she may not understand why, but something within her shifts. She might feel restless, nostalgic, or suddenly start remembering small things you said. And she'll tell herself it's random. But it's not. The subconscious mind is always listening, always feeling, always receiving emotional signals that the conscious mind can't explain. Here's where it gets deeper. Thoughts aren't just mental noise. They're electrical impulses, and when those impulses are charged with strong emotion, they form patterns. Patterns that affect behavior, perception, and even decision-making. That's why two people who once shared emotional intimacy can drift apart for months, even years, and then suddenly reconnect when one starts thinking about the other. Their emotional frequencies pull each other back into alignment for a short moment. It's the mind's way of saying, this isn't finished yet. But here's the hard truth. Not every thought means you should go back. Sometimes the reason you can't stop thinking about her isn't because she's meant to return, but because a part of you still needs to heal. The brain doesn't know the difference between pain and attachment. It only knows repetition. The more you think about her, the stronger the neural pathway becomes, until thinking of her feels automatic. You don't even choose it. It just happens. That's why forgetting her feels impossible. Your brain built an entire emotional world around her, and now it's trying to figure out how to survive without it. Still, something beautiful happens in this process. As you think of her, you begin to understand the depth of your own emotions. You start realizing how deeply you can care, how much you can feel, and how much vulnerability still lives inside you, even after years of pretending you've moved on. That's what she unknowingly gave you, a mirror that showed you who you really are beneath the armor. And that's why she stays in your mind, not just because you miss her, but because your soul recognized something in her that it couldn't forget. And while you're thinking of her, she's probably feeling small ripples of it too. Maybe she dreams of you. Maybe she feels a sudden wave of sadness or warmth without understanding why. Maybe she scrolls through her phone and stops at your name, just for a second. These moments aren't accidents. They're reminders that emotional connection doesn't vanish. It just becomes quieter, like a song that never really ends, only fades into the background. So if you find yourself wondering why she's still in your thoughts, it's because connection leaves fingerprints on the heart. You can move on, meet new people, live a whole new life. But those emotional fingerprints don't wash away. And in some strange way, that's not something to regret. It's something to appreciate. Because it means that what you felt was real, even if it didn't last forever. And maybe, just maybe, while you're out there thinking of her, she's somewhere thinking of you too, without even knowing why. There's a strange and fascinating thing that happens between two people who once shared a deep emotional bond. Even after time, distance, and silence, the connection doesn't completely die. It just changes form. You stop seeing her, you stop talking, but somehow, the feeling lingers. It's like an invisible thread still ties you together, quietly vibrating when either of you remembers the other. You might be sitting alone, lost in thought, when her name drifts across your mind for no reason. And what if, in that very moment, she's feeling the same pull, that faint sense of being thought about without knowing why? Psychology has a word for this kind of invisible exchange. It's called emotional entrainment, when two people's emotional states become synchronized because of shared experiences and memories. Once your emotions and hers align deeply enough, your nervous systems remember it. They remember the pattern of closeness, the rhythm of connection, the feeling of being emotionally safe with each other. And sometimes that old rhythm starts playing again, even when you're apart. That's why you can feel her presence or sense her energy, even when you haven't spoken in months. Every time you think of her with strong emotion, whether it's love, longing, or even sadness, your body releases energy. Your heartbeat changes, your breathing slows or quickens, and your body produces subtle electromagnetic fields. Now, you might not see it, but that energy affects your surroundings. It's why someone can walk into a room and you immediately feel their mood. Humans are emotional transmitters. We constantly project what we feel, and those who were once deeply connected to us, they're tuned into that signal. That's why sometimes when you're missing her deeply, she suddenly feels restless or emotional for no reason. She might not realize it's connected to you, but her subconscious does. And this is where most men underestimate the power of emotional presence. You don't have to say a word for her to feel you. A woman who once opened her heart to you is far more intuitive than you think. She feels shifts in your energy. She senses when your thoughts return to her. And even if she doesn't act on it, something inside her always knows. That's why you'll often hear women say, "I just had this feeling you were thinking about me." They're not guessing. They're picking up on the subtle emotional language that two connected people share. But here's what's even more interesting. The stronger your focus, the more she feels it. Because focus is energy. And when that energy carries emotion, it becomes magnetic. The human mind is sensitive to emotional intention. So, when your thoughts are filled with genuine affection or curiosity, she may suddenly feel drawn to you again, not because of logic, but because emotions have memory, and her mind remembers how it felt to be thought of by you. That's why certain people cross your mind at the same moment you cross theirs. The connection reactivates briefly, like two frequencies meeting again in the same airwave. Still, you have to be careful with this. Constantly sending emotional energy towards someone can keep you stuck in that loop. You start feeding the connection without allowing yourself to grow beyond it. The key is awareness. Understanding that thinking about her doesn't always mean you should act on it. Sometimes it's just emotional residue, a reminder that part of your story still carries weight. You can honor it, feel it, and then let it go without losing its beauty. What's important to realize is that you're not crazy for feeling these invisible exchanges. It's part of being human, part of how our minds and hearts stay wired for connection. When you care deeply for someone, your brain literally rewires itself to include them in your sense of self. So when they leave, it feels like a part of you is missing. But that doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're alive, capable of deep emotional connection, something fewer people experience with age. So if you catch yourself feeling her energy out of nowhere, or remembering her with that strange mix of peace and pain, don't fight it. Let the thought come, feel it, and understand that it's just your heart acknowledging what once was, because she probably feels it too, that same quiet reminder of something real. And sometimes, that's enough. You don't need to chase it or force it back. Just knowing that a part of you still lingers somewhere in her thoughts is its own kind of closure. There comes a moment when you start to wonder why certain people stay in your thoughts longer than they should. Why her, out of everyone? Why the memories of her voice, her laugh, the way she used to look at you when you weren't even talking? Why does all of that still linger, even after so much time? The truth is, not every connection leaves the same mark. Some people pass through your life quietly. Others stay like a scar, not because they hurt you, but because they changed you. Psychologically, it's called emotional imprinting. When you form a deep emotional bond with someone, especially one that touched both your vulnerability and desire, your brain records it as significant. It's wired into your long-term emotional memory, the same place where you store the moments that shaped you. That's why forgetting her feels impossible. It's not just the person you miss, it's the part of yourself that came alive when she was there. When two people share emotional intimacy, their nervous systems adapt to each other. You start to mirror each other's rhythms, breathing, tone of voice, emotional responses. That's why being around her once felt so calm, so natural. Your body recognized her as safe. And now, even when she's gone, your subconscious still reaches for that sense of safety. It searches for her not because you're desperate, but because she became part of your emotional blueprint. But here's something most men never realize. That same emotional connection that keeps you thinking about her can also become your greatest teacher. Because it reveals what your heart is truly capable of. When you think of her, what you're really feeling is your own emotional depth echoing back to you. The connection didn't just awaken your love for her, it awakened your love for connection itself. That's why the memory feels so alive. It's your heart reminding you what it feels like to be fully open. The human brain doesn't like unresolved emotion. When a relationship ends without proper closure, without understanding what went wrong or why, the mind keeps looping through memories, searching for answers. It replays moments, overanalyzes words, even invents new scenarios where things could have gone differently. It's not obsession, it's the brain's way of trying to solve emotional confusion. That's why you might still think about her even when you know it's over. You're not longing for the person, you're longing for resolution. And yet, there's another layer. The more emotionally mature you become, the more you understand that some bonds were never meant to end with closure. They were meant to leave a lesson, one that you carry quietly into the rest of your life. Maybe she taught you patience. Maybe she showed you that vulnerability doesn't make you weak. Or maybe she reminded you that love isn't always about possession. Sometimes it's about appreciation. The older you get, the more you realize that real connection doesn't need to be constant to be meaningful. Sometimes it's enough that it happened, that for a brief period of time, you met someone who mirrored your soul back to you. And no matter where life takes either of you, that memory will always have weight, not because you're stuck in the past, but because it became part of your emotional evolution. Here's the truth. Most men never say out loud, "It's okay to still think about her." It doesn't mean you haven't moved on. It means you're human. It means you felt something rare enough to leave a mark. And if your thoughts sometimes drift back to her, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a reminder of how deeply you can feel. That's what makes you different from men who've stopped feeling altogether. So instead of trying to erase her, let the thought of her soften you. Let it remind you that love, in all its confusion and beauty, is what keeps a man's soul alive. Because long after the details fade, what stays is the emotion. The quiet, indescribable warmth that once made your life feel fuller. And maybe that's the real purpose of thinking about someone long after they're gone. Not to bring them back, but to bring yourself back. To that part of you that still knows how to feel deeply, even after the world tried to harden you. There's a quiet truth that takes most men years to understand. When someone stays in your thoughts for a long time, it's not just because of love or attraction. It's because something in that connection awakened you. It reminded you that you still have the capacity to care, to feel, to hope. And that's rare. Most people go through life half asleep, afraid to feel anything too deeply. But when someone enters your life and shakes your soul, even for a short while, it leaves a trace that time can't erase. You think about her because your soul remembers the feeling of being alive with her. You remember how your guard dropped, how you let her see sides of you no one else did. She didn't just walk into your life. She reached places in you that had been quiet for too long. And even though she's gone, the echoes of that connection still live within you. They're not haunting you. They're shaping you. Every thought of her is a gentle reminder that you once dared to feel. Sometimes people leave not to hurt us, but to awaken us. They walk away and take with them the comfort we once knew, forcing us to grow in ways we never would have otherwise. And yet, their presence never completely disappears. You'll feel it in random moments, a scent, a song, a quiet evening, when her memory drifts in and your heart feels heavy for reasons you can't explain. That's not a sign that you're stuck. That's a sign that love left something meaningful behind. But here's the most important truth. When someone is constantly on your mind, it doesn't always mean you're meant to be together again. Sometimes, it means you've reached the part of your story where you're supposed to let go. Not by forgetting, but by understanding. The connection served its purpose. It taught you what kind of love you're capable of giving, what kind of man you become when your heart opens. And now it's time to carry that lesson forward, into your next chapter, into your next version of yourself. Because the deeper truth is this: not every love is meant to last. Some loves are meant to transform you. They burn brightly for a while, then fade, leaving behind a warmer, wiser heart. The woman who's been on your mind all this time may never know how much she shaped you. But she did. And whether she's out there living her life or thinking of you in quiet moments she doesn't talk about, the impact remains. If she's still on your mind, it's because a part of you is still healing. And healing doesn't mean erasing memories. It means accepting them, fully, without resistance. It means smiling at what was and being grateful for what it taught you. When you do that, you stop trying to fight your thoughts. You stop asking, "Why can't I forget her?" and start understanding, "She came into my life to show me what real connection feels like." And maybe that's all you needed to learn. That love isn't about ownership or certainty. It's about the moments that change us. The nights when your chest ached because you cared too much. The mornings when you missed her voice but still managed to move forward. That's what it means to be human, to love deeply, lose deeply, and still keep your heart open for what's next. So if she's still on your mind, don't see it as a curse. See it as a reflection of your depth. Because only men who've truly loved know the beauty and the pain of remembering. And if you can carry that memory with grace instead of grief, you've already won. You've turned love into wisdom. And one day, maybe when you least expect it, you'll meet someone new. Someone who feels calm, familiar, safe in a way you can't quite explain. And in that moment, you'll realize that the energy you once sent into the past finally found its way back. Through a different person, in a different form, but with the same soul. That's how love works. It never really ends. It transforms, reshapes, and finds its way back to you when you're ready. So for now, take a breath. Let her memory live where it belongs, not as a wound, but as a reminder. Because when you can't stop thinking about someone, it's not always about them. Sometimes it's about you, about the parts of you that still believe in love, in connection, in something real. And that belief is what keeps your heart alive. If this spoke to something inside you, take a moment to breathe and just feel it. Because it means your heart still works, no matter how many times it's been broken. And that's what makes you rare. And if you're still here, it means something in these words touched a part of you that's still alive. The part that still believes in real connection, even in a world that's forgotten how to feel. That's what this channel is about. It's about understanding women. But more than that, it's about understanding yourself, the emotions you hide, the love you give, and the man you become through it all. So if you felt this, don't just scroll away. Take a second, hit subscribe, and turn on that little bell icon, because every week I share more psychology-based insights that help you connect deeper, with women and with your own heart. Leave a comment below and tell me what part of this video hit you the most. Your words might just be the reminder another man out there needs to hear tonight. This is Be Feminine, where we talk about love, emotion, and the quiet strength of a man who still knows how to feel. I'll see you in the next one.